Hey guys, Mike here, and in today's video we're going to look at 3 of the top ambidextrous charging handles for the AR-15 rifle. And we're also going to look at a relative newcomer to the ambidextrous market, a company that uses a different mechanism altogether to lock up the charging handle to the upper receiver.
This is the Lwrc ambidextrous charging handle. This has a retail price of $100 but can be found on the internet for $76 to $80. You can see the pivot pins are very large. These are actually steel rivets, and the charging handle is also outfitted with the extended latches that are made out of steel on the Lwrc handle. This is a very robust design. This is the AXTS Raptor. The Raptor can be found for about $85 to $90. You'll notice that the handle on the right side is extended more than the handle on the left side to accommodate for the forward assist in this design. This is the Bcm Gunfighter. This particular model has the Mod 4 latch or the medium latch on both sides. You can purchase this with the extended latch on both sides, and the price ranges from about $70 to $80 for this Bcm Gunfighter ambidextrous charging handle. And this fourth handle that we'll be looking at in today's video is the Slidlock by Mega Arms, and it can be found for around $57. This is a very simple design. The handle itself is all one piece. There are no moving levers on the back. There's just the locking latch that's on the side, and we'll take a close look at all 4 of these charging handles now and go over the details of each one.
Here are all 4 charging handles side by side that we're looking at in this review. All of these handles are made with 7075 T6 aluminum. They're all Type 3 hard coat anodized. Now with the Lwrc, they use steel for their latches, and they do use rivets for their pivot pin. There's a steel rivet for the pivot pin. So let's start at the back. One thing we'll talk about is there any buildup in the back of these charging handles to help prevent gas blowback? And the only charging handle that really has any significant buildup is this Bcm Gunfighter. You can see that on the back of the charging handle there's added material here which gives a little bit of extra height to try to block some of the gas flow. As far as style goes, the style of the Lwrc is pretty much reminiscent of a standard USGI charging handle. The Bcm Gunfighter is styled just like other Bcm Gunfighter charging handles with this elevated area to help prevent gas blowback. And then the Raptor has a very aggressive styling. A lot of guys just like the looks of this charging handle on their rifle. And then the styling is fairly similar with this Slidlock. Now the Raptor has a very good reputation. A lot of people rant and rave in the reviews about how they like this charging handle, so I felt like I really did want to try it. A couple of design features: the roll pins used for the pivot pins are larger than a standard roll pin, and they're also placed more laterally. And what this does is it does decrease the amount of pressure. just from the lever tension that you're going to have on this pivot. If you place the pivot a little bit more laterally, that will decrease the amount of pressure placed on these pins. Obviously, the roll pins and the pivot pins are a weak spot in the charging handle designs and a concern anytime that you're going to do a one-handed technique for charging your gun. You're increasing the pressure that you're placing on this pivot pin. Now, as far as the pads on the levers, if we compare these four charging handles, certainly the largest surface area is going to go to the Raptor and the Slidlock. You can see the surface area on the BCM is fairly large, but it is cut back here on the medial side of the charging handle. You have a fairly wide pad on the charging handle for the Lwrc, but it is shorter compared to the surface that you have to grip on the Raptor. The throw, if you will, the amount of movement to unlock is very short on the Lwrc. The pad does not move much at all. The Raptor, also people have commented about this having a very short throw. It seems a little bit longer than the Lwrc throw. The Bcm Gunfighter has a little bit more movement than the Raptor. I don't know what difference this will make. It'll just have a little bit different feel when you charge it. And we will place all of these on the same rifle and just give a subjective feel. Obviously, with the Slidlock, there's no movement at all. This is all one piece. The only moving piece is the latch that's going to catch the receiver. Now let's talk about concerns or complaints maybe that people have had with these. Like I said, the Raptor really has good reviews, but there have been a couple of people that said that this Raptor would not fit in their receiver. It just would not go inside. So I think this thickness right here is probably just a little bit tighter in the Raptor design than in the others, and there's a little bit less free play. But that's really the only complaint I've seen show up on the internet very much. I guess one thing we could do is just check that real quick. Now, in checking the thickness in both this direction, that might keep it from going into the receiver, and I also looked at the thickness here, the width, and I compared all of these, and there's a little variation among all of these, but this is neither the thickest in this direction or the widest in this direction. So I'm not sure exactly why a couple of people have had problems with this not fitting in their receiver. That seems to be a fairly rare complaint, and about the only complaint that I've seen with this Raptor. If we go to the Bcm Gunfighter, very high quality. There's a lot more styling and machining compared to a standard charging handle that goes into this design. It looks very good, and it's kind of low profile on the gun, which I do like as far as the style goes. The only complaints I've seen on the internet with this is a couple of guys have complained about this feeling gritty when it was new, and a couple of guys don't like the fact that the pad is fairly small and it's too small for a palm swipe type of charging. That's not a big issue for me, but that is something to consider, I guess. The Lwrc, it seems like their primary concern when they designed their ambidextrous charging handle was to make this thing as tough as a tank. And so they changed the material for the latches to steel and the pivot pins, like we said, are steel rivets. So very strong, but this has the least amount of styling. This looks just like a standard USGI charging handle, and that may appeal to you or you may not like that, but that is in fact what you see when you look at the LWRC. They've taken a standard USGI charging handle and just put really strong components as far as the latches and the pivot pins to make this a very strong ambidextrous charging handle. And also, if you notice, a very small amount of motion is required to make this thing function. And then the slide lock is all one piece. So they've eliminated some of the concerns about parts breaking and wearing out where the weak point is at the pivot pin. As far as the size of the face, they have a very large, aggressive texture. This obviously is going to be very strong. Now, the complaints that I've seen about this is it's new, and a couple of guys have said that this latch doesn't hold during firing, especially if you fire rapid fire. And I'm not sure if everything is in spec with your rifle, I'm not sure why this would go back when you're firing your gun. It doesn't seem like there should be any driving force to cause that unless there was something out of spec and there was some contact being made in this area with your gas key perhaps dragging this back. But a couple of guys have said they've seen this. So we've got to field test this before we can really say one way or the other whether this seems like a good design. It seems like on paper that it should work fine. The other concern with this is that you're going to wear out the receiver from this sliding back and forth. Now with a standard bolt catch, obviously when it goes forward, it does slide over the receiver. But when you go to unlock it, you're lifting off that latch and then pulling it back. And so this would wear a little bit more. So you can see that this design is beveled both rearward and forward. And so when you do pull this back, even though it's under spring tension, the bevel should decrease the amount of wear, but you certainly are going to see a little bit of wear on that front edge detent area in your upper receiver. Now what I wanted to do is do a subjective test, and let's put each charging handle in the same upper receiver and the same lower, and let's see how they feel when we charge the gun. The upper I'm going to use is this Titan Defense TD415. This has been used a lot and it is well broken in and very smooth, and so that's why I wanted to use this action. And so we're going to start with this Raptor charging handle, and I have to tell you, when you charge this, it feels very smooth. And I was actually kind of shocked the first time that I put this charging handle on this upper receiver. It just feels so smooth when you charge it. I can see why people ranted and raved about this. So certainly subjectively the Raptor feels very slick. Now let's try the other charging handles. Okay, this is the Bcm Gunfighter. Now, you could get larger latches if you wanted the Mod 3 latches. So their latches are smaller. Let's just see. Also feels very smooth. Not quite as slick feeling as the Raptor. It is difficult if you're going to use the palm charge. I think you would need to have the Mod 3 latches. But it does feel good. Not quite as smooth as the Raptor. But it does have the increased metal up top to help prevent gas blowback. And I really like the style of this. It looks like it's just part of the gun with all the beveled edges and machining. It doesn't look like something that's stuck on the gun extra. It looks like it's kind of made to be on the gun. So I do like the styling. Okay, this is the Lwrc. Kind of looks like a standard charging handle, so that might really appeal. It doesn't look all that different, except that you do have extended latches on both sides of what looks like a USGI charging handle. So you have to consider that if that appeals to you. Now, okay, charging feels not nearly as smooth. There's more dragging in this particular gun. So this is more difficult to charge than the other two. Actually, if you look, this is the Lwrc, and just in the upper receiver, there's friction here that wasn't present with the other charging handles. Yep, there's just friction here. It's just not present in the other charging handles. So there's something about the dimension of the upper receiver, and this particular upper receiver forward is just really tight. Let's try another upper receiver. This is my recent pistol upper build in 6.8 SPC. So let's just this is the Lwrc. Let's see if it has a problem with this upper receiver. Nope. Okay, so this is very smooth. It doesn't have that binding that we saw in the Titan Defense upper. So it may be that the upper receiver is just a little out of spec, and the tolerances are such that the Lwrc is tight when the other handles haven't been tight. Now, as far as charging goes, this has a different buffer and spring, so it'll be not as much of a direct comparison, but let's just go ahead and see what it feels like charging this pistol now. Still, using your palm is not going to work with the Lwrc. I think the latches are just too short and too small. It charges fine. It's not as slick as the other two charging handles, as a matter of fact, but it is a very robust design. This is the Slidlock, and once again, if you look, the only moving part is going to be the part that goes into the receiver. This part that just holds the receiver, and the question is whether you're going to wear this part of the receiver abnormally because of the function of this. Okay, this feels slicker, certainly, than the Lwrc, and it feels about the same amount of grittiness or rubbing as the Gunfighter. Now, the handle is solid and it is larger, so for palm charging, I think this would work if that's what you're interested in. It feels good. And I'd say it's kind of in the middle of the pack as far as how slick it is. Now I have to say, subjectively, the winner as far as the ease of charging and the slick feeling is this Raptor. It feels different than the others. Feels very nice, very smooth. Now remember, I'm a consumer. I'm not trying to sell you on one product versus the other. I'm trying to point out the differences between these and let you decide which aspects are more important to you, and so you can make the decision for yourself and be better informed. Now, there are other high quality, good ambidextrous charging handles out there. Rainier Arms has one that comes to mind. Now, as far as that charging handle goes, I just don't like the looks of the latches coming out of both sides of that charging handle. You can change the latches on that handle. It does not have any buildup as far as protecting you from gas blowback. And so I just haven't bought that, but Rainier Arms is a very good company and they make quality products, and I'm sure that is a very fine charging handle as well. I just don't have one that I can show you to compare. Now the Slidlock is a new design, and I wanted to test that just because how it is different than all of the rest of them. Certainly it seems like it would be very robust. The concern is, will we have any malfunctions when we take it out in the field, and is it going to prematurely wear the upper receivers? And that's yet to be determined. It certainly feels good charging, and I think it certainly is going to hold up as far as the charging handle itself. Whether it causes any wear or not, we'll have to see. My goal is just to show you the differences of the products that I have and let you decide which aspects of these charging handles are more important to you. There's differences in styling, in the size of the pads, in the construction of the handles themselves, whether they protect you from gas blowback or not. And so there are a lot of variations, and you have to pick what you think matches your needs the best. I hope you found the information useful and interesting. If you have any questions or comments, please post those and I'll try to respond to those in a timely fashion. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.